She traveled across the universe to study human emotions. But somewhere between healing my stress and holding me close at night, she learned what it meant to fall in love. Jake had always been curious about different cultures. When his college offered a program to host international exchange students, he didn't think twice before signing up. Living alone in his small apartment near campus, he figured having a roommate would be nice. Plus, he'd always wanted to learn about life in other countries. The email came on a Tuesday morning. A student from a remote area in Eastern Europe needed housing for the semester. Her name was Luna, and according to her file, she came from a small mountain community that wasn't well connected to the modern world. Jake thought it would be cool to learn about traditional ways of living. When Luna arrived at his apartment, Jake's first thought was that she looked different from what he expected. She was tall and graceful, with unusually large dark eyes that seemed to catch light in strange ways. Her skin was pale, almost porcelain-like, and she moved with a flowing motion that reminded him of water. "Hello," she said in careful English. "I am Luna. Thank you for allowing me to stay in your dwelling place," Jake laughed. "Just call it home." "And you're welcome." But from that first conversation, things felt off. Luna spoke like she was reading from a textbook, choosing her words very carefully. When Jake showed her around the apartment, her reactions were odd. She stared at the microwave for a full minute, running her fingers along its edges. "This device," she said slowly, "it heats food using invisible energy?" "Yeah, microwaves. Pretty standard stuff," Jake replied. But Luna continued examining it like she'd discovered alien technology. The television confused her even more. When Jake turned it on to show her how to use it, Luna jumped back as if she'd been shocked. She watched the screen with wide eyes, tilting her head left and right. "The small people inside the box," she whispered. "They are trapped?" Jake stared at her. "It's just TV, shows, movies?" "Entertainment?" Luna nodded slowly but kept her distance from the screen for the rest of the day. Her questions got stranger as the week went on. At breakfast, she watched Jake make coffee with intense focus. "You consume heated plant water every morning?" she asked. "It's coffee. Haven't you had coffee before?" "In my village, we do not cook plants for drinking." Jake figured maybe her mountain community was really traditional. Some places in the world still lived pretty simply. But Luna's curiosity about basic things seemed to go beyond cultural differences. She asked about the shower for 20 minutes, wanting to know where the water came from and where it went afterward. She called it Earth's water system and seemed amazed that humans had figured out indoor plumbing. "Your species is quite clever with resources," she said one evening while watching Jake cook dinner. "My species?" Jake laughed. "You mean people?" Luna's eyes widened like she'd made a mistake. "Yes. People. Humans. I meant humans." The way she said humans sounded like she was learning a new word. Jake tried asking about her home, but Luna's answers were always vague. She'd mentioned the settlement in the high mountains or my community's different ways, but never gave specific details. When he asked what country exactly, she'd say it was a very small region that most people hadn't heard of. "Do you miss your family?" Jake asked one night. Luna's expression became sad and distant. "Very much. They are very far away." "How far?" She looked up at the ceiling, then out the window at the night sky. "Further than you could imagine." Jake found this odd too. In today's world, nowhere was really that far away. Video calls, social media, even regular phones could connect people across continents. But Luna claimed her family didn't use any modern communication. "We prefer traditional methods," she'd say whenever Jake offered to help her call home. Despite all the weirdness, Jake found himself drawn to Luna. There was something calming about her presence. When she listened to him talk about his day or his classes, she gave him her complete attention in a way that felt almost magical. She never seemed distracted or bored, just genuinely interested in understanding everything about his life. Luna was also incredibly smart. When Jake struggled with his physics homework, she'd offer help that went way beyond what any textbook taught. Her explanations of scientific concepts were beautiful and poetic, like she understood the universe from a completely different angle. "Energy flows through everything," she told him, while helping with a particularly difficult problem. "It connects all matter, all consciousness. Your scientists are beginning to understand this truth." "Beginning to understand?" "This stuff has been known for decades. Luna smiled mysteriously. Time moves differently in my homeland. Perhaps we learned these things earlier. By the end of the first month, Jake had a growing list of Luna's strange behaviors. She barely ate food, just touching meals and seeming satisfied. She never got sick, never seemed tired, and her skin always felt cool to the touch even when the apartment was warm. She'd spend hours staring out the window at the sky, especially at night. Sometimes Jake would catch her looking at the stars with tears in her eyes, whispering words in a language he couldn't identify. "What language is that?" he asked once. "Oh, just old dialect from my region. Very few people speak it now." The strangest thing was how Luna reacted to technology. She wasn't just unfamiliar with gadgets. She seemed genuinely amazed by them, like they were incredible innovations she'd never imagined possible. When Jake's smartphone rang, she'd watch it with wonder. "The device speaks across vast distances," she'd say. "Remarkable." Jake started to wonder if Luna's mountain village was more isolated than he'd thought. Maybe they really did live without modern technology. But some of her questions made it sound like she'd never encountered basic human activities before. "Do all humans require 8 hours of unconsciousness daily?" she asked about sleep. "Do your people not sleep? We rest differently." Jake noticed Luna never seemed to actually sleep. He'd gotten up at various times during the night for water or the bathroom, and she'd always be awake, either staring out the window or reading his textbooks with intense concentration. Yet she never seemed tired. If anything, she appeared more energetic and alert than anyone Jake had ever met. As weeks passed, Jake's initial confusion about Luna began mixing with attraction. There was something otherworldly beautiful about her. Not just her appearance, but the way she moved through the world with such grace and curiosity. She made him see ordinary things through new eyes. When she helped him with homework or listened to his problems, Jake felt understood in a way he'd never experienced. Luna asked questions that made him think deeper about his own life and dreams, but the mysteries kept piling up. Jake couldn't shake the feeling that Luna wasn't just from a different culture. She seemed like she was from a different world entirely. The thought was crazy, of course. But late at night, when Luna stood at the window gazing at the stars with that look of deep longing, Jake sometimes wondered if she was looking toward home, in the most literal sense possible. 2 months into Luna's stay, Jake found himself looking forward to coming home every day. Despite all her strange habits, there was something special about her that he couldn't explain. She had this way of making everything feel more interesting, more alive. Luna had settled into a routine of sorts, though it was unlike any routine Jake had ever seen. She'd wake up before sunrise and spend an hour standing by the window, watching the sky change colors. She never used an alarm clock. Somehow she always knew exactly when to wake up. "How do you do that?" Jake asked one morning. "Wake up at the same time every day without setting an alarm?" Luna looked confused by the question. "Time flows naturally. Why would I need a device to tell me when to awaken? Because most people can't just feel what time it is. Most people have forgotten how to listen to their bodies," she said softly. "In my homeland, we are taught from childhood to stay connected to natural rhythms." Jake had to admit there was wisdom in that. Luna never seemed stressed or rushed like he always felt. She moved through life with this calm confidence that made him feel peaceful just being around her. The attraction he'd been fighting was getting stronger. Luna wasn't just beautiful in an otherworldly way. She was genuinely kind and interested in everything about his life. When he talked about his dreams of becoming an engineer, she'd ask thoughtful questions that helped him understand his own goals better. "You want to build things that will help people," she observed one evening while they studied together, "creating structures that serve the community. This is noble work." "It's just engineering," Jake said, but the way she described it made it sound important and meaningful. "Nothing is just anything," Luna replied. "Every action ripples through the world in ways you cannot see." She had this way of making simple conversations feel deep and philosophical. Jake found himself thinking about things differently when Luna was around. The breakthrough in their relationship came during midterm week. Jake had been staying up late every night, stressed about exams and a big project that was due. His anxiety was through the roof and he couldn't sleep even when he tried. Luna noticed his distress. She'd watch him pace around the apartment, see him struggle with concentration, observe how jumpy and tired he was getting. On Wednesday night, Jake was sitting at his desk at 2 in the morning, staring at textbooks but unable to focus on anything. His mind kept racing with worry about failing his classes. Luna appeared beside him, moving so quietly he hadn't heard her approach. She was wearing simple sleep clothes, and her long, dark hair fell around her shoulders like silk. "Jake," she said gently, "you are suffering." He looked up at her, feeling exhausted and defeated. "I can't concentrate. I'm going to fail everything." Luna sat down next to him, closer than she'd ever sat before. Her presence immediately made him feel a little calmer. "In my culture," she said carefully, "when someone is troubled by worries or fear, we practice something called proximity comfort." "Proximity comfort?" She nodded, looking slightly nervous. "It is custom for people to sleep close together when one is distressed. The nearness helps heal the troubled mind." Jake felt his heart start beating faster, but not from anxiety this time. "Sleep close together? Not for romantic purposes?" Luna said quickly, her cheeks turning slightly pink. "For healing. For peace. My people believe that sharing rest space creates harmony between troubled energies." Jake stared at her. Part of him wondered if this was really some cultural tradition, or if Luna was making it up because she wanted to be close to him. Either way, the idea of sleeping next to her made his stomach flutter with nervousness and excitement. "Would that help?" he asked. "I believe it would bring you the rest your mind needs," Luna said. "But only if you are comfortable with this custom." Jake looked into her large, dark eyes. There was something sincere and caring there, not manipulative or deceptive. She genuinely seemed to want to help him feel better. "Okay," he said quietly, "if you think it will help." Luna smiled, the first truly happy smile he'd seen from her since she arrived. "It will help, come." She led him to his bed and waited while he got ready for sleep. When he lay down, Luna carefully positioned herself next to him. She curled up against his side, resting her head on his shoulder and draping one arm across his chest. The moment her body touched his, something incredible happened. A wave of calm washed over Jake, unlike anything he'd ever experienced. All the anxiety and stress that had been eating at him for days simply melted away. His racing thoughts slowed down, his tense muscles relaxed, and a warm, peaceful feeling spread through his entire body. It wasn't just physical relaxation. It felt like Luna was somehow drawing all his worries out of him and replacing them with tranquility. "How do you do that?" he whispered. "Shh," Luna murmured against his shoulder. "Just rest." Jake had expected to lie awake all night, hyper-aware of Luna's closeness. Instead, he fell into the deepest, most restful sleep of his life. When he woke up the next morning, Jake felt like a completely different person. His mind was clear, his body was refreshed, and all the problems that had seemed impossible the night before now felt manageable. Luna was already awake, watching him with those mysterious eyes. "How do you feel?" she asked. "Amazing," Jake said honestly. "I haven't slept that well in months. Maybe ever," Luna smiled. "Proximity comfort is very effective for your species." Again with the weird phrasing, but Jake was too grateful to care. Whatever Luna had done, it had worked better than any medicine or therapy he could imagine. "Thank you," he said. "Really, I don't know how you did it, but you saved me from having a complete breakdown." "It was my pleasure to help," Luna replied. "In my homeland, we believe that healing others heals ourselves." That night, when Jake started feeling stressed about the next day's exams, Luna offered to sleep close to him again. This time he didn't hesitate to accept. The same incredible peace washed over him when she curled up against him. As he drifted off to sleep, Jake realized that whatever was happening between them was beyond anything he'd ever experienced with another person. Luna held him with surprising strength, as if she was anchoring herself to him. Sometimes during the night, Jake would wake up briefly and feel her grip tighten around him like she was afraid he might disappear. But strangest of all was how Luna seemed to change during these nights. During the day, she was mysterious and distant, like she was holding back parts of herself. But when she held him at night, she felt more present, more real somehow. Jake was falling for this mysterious woman, and he suspected she might be developing feelings for him too. The sleeping arrangement with Luna became a regular thing. Every night for the past 3 weeks, she would curl up next to Jake, and every morning he'd wake up feeling like he could take on the world. The stress that used to keep him awake for hours just disappeared when Luna was close to him. Jake had never experienced anything like it. Her presence didn't just calm him down. It felt like she was actually healing something deep inside him that he didn't even know was broken. Old anxieties from childhood, worries about his future. Even physical aches and pains he'd carried for years seemed to fade away during those peaceful nights. But the more time they spent together, the more Jake noticed things about Luna that didn't add up. Small things at first, then bigger ones that made him question everything he thought he knew about her. Food was the first real clue that something was seriously different about Luna. She'd sit with Jake during meals, but she barely ate anything. Instead, she'd touch her food gently with her fingertips, almost like she was feeling for something. After a few seconds of this touching, she'd seem satisfied and push the plate away. "Aren't you hungry?" Jake asked one evening after Luna had barely touched the pasta he'd made. "I have received what I needed," she replied in that careful way she always spoke. "But you didn't eat anything." Luna looked confused. "I absorbed the nutrients. Is this not how your people feed?" Jake stared at her. "Luna, people chew food and swallow it. That's how eating works." She looked embarrassed. "Of course. In my village, we have different customs around food. More efficient methods." Jake didn't push it, but he started paying closer attention to Luna's eating habits. She never actually consumed anything, just touched it briefly. Yet she never seemed weak or tired like someone who wasn't eating should be. Her skin was another mystery. Luna always felt cool to the touch, like she'd just come in from outside on a winter day. But it wasn't an unpleasant coldness, it was refreshing, almost soothing. Jake found himself looking forward to that cool touch when she held him at night. "Are you always this cool?" he asked one evening while they watched TV together. Luna looked down at her arms. "My people run at lower temperatures than others. Is that a medical condition? Should you see a doctor?" "No," Luna said quickly, almost panicked. "No doctors. This is normal for my family line. We are all this way." The panic in her voice made Jake drop the subject, but he filed it away as another strange thing about his mysterious roommate. Then there was the sleep issue. Jake had become completely sure that Luna never actually slept. He'd tested this theory several times, getting up at random hours during the night. Every single time Luna would be awake, either staring out the window at the stars or reading his textbooks with intense focus. "Do you ever sleep?" he asked her directly one morning. "I rest when you rest," Luna said. "But you're always awake when I wake up at night." Luna hesitated. "In my homeland, we practice different forms of rest. We do not require the complete unconsciousness that most people need." Jake was starting to notice how Luna would catch herself before saying, "your people" or "your species." It was like she had to remind herself to speak as if she were human too. The breaking point came on a Thursday night when Jake couldn't sleep despite Luna's presence beside him. His mind was racing with questions about her behavior, her background, her strange way of speaking about humans like she was studying them from the outside. Around 3 in the morning, Jake gave up trying to sleep and quietly got out of bed to get some water. As he walked through the dark apartment, he heard Luna's voice coming from the living room. She was speaking in that mysterious language he'd heard before, but this time he could hear her clearly. Jake crept closer to listen. Luna was sitting by the window looking up at the stars, speaking in flowing tones that sounded almost like music. Even though he couldn't understand the words, there was something deeply sad and lonely in her voice. Then she switched to English, and what she said made Jake's blood run cold. "I know you cannot hear me," Luna whispered to the stars, "but I miss home so much it feels like dying. This mission is harder than I expected. These humans, they feel so deeply, so purely. I was not prepared for how their emotions would affect me." Jake felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Mission? Humans? What was Luna talking about? "The subject has begun to trust me completely," Luna continued. "The proximity healing sessions allow me to study his emotional patterns in detail. But something unexpected is happening. I think I am becoming too attached to him." Jake's heart was pounding so hard he was sure Luna would hear it. Subject, was she talking about him? Was this whole thing some kind of experiment? "I was supposed to observe human bonding behavior," Luna said, her voice breaking slightly. "But I fear I am experiencing it myself. This was not part of the plan." She switched back to the musical language, and Jake could hear her crying softly. Whatever she was saying, it sounded like a desperate plea. Jake crept back to bed, his mind spinning with questions and fears. Was Luna some kind of researcher, a spy? Was their entire relationship fake? But as he lay there in the dark, Jake remembered how genuine Luna's care for him felt. The way she'd helped him through his stress, the peaceful nights they'd shared, the deep conversations about his dreams and fears, none of that felt like an act. When Luna returned to bed, she curled up against him as usual. But this time Jake noticed how tightly she held on to him, like she was afraid he might disappear. Her breathing was unsteady, like she'd been crying. "Luna," Jake whispered. "Are you okay?" She went very still against him. "Yes, just missing my family. How far away are they really?" Luna was quiet for so long that Jake thought she might not answer. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. "Further than you could ever imagine," she said. "So far that sometimes I wonder if I will ever see them again." Jake felt her tears on his shoulder. Whatever was going on with Luna, whatever secrets she was keeping, her pain was real. The connection between them was real too, even if he didn't understand it. But as he held her while she cried silently in the darkness, Jake knew that everything was about to change. Luna was hiding something big, and sooner or later the truth was going to come out. The question was, would their relationship survive when it did? Jake spent the rest of the night staring at the ceiling, listening to Luna's quiet breathing, wondering who exactly he had fallen in love with and whether the woman in his arms was even human at all. For 3 days after overhearing Luna's mysterious conversation, Jake felt like he was living with a stranger. He watched everything she did with new eyes, looking for clues about who she really was and what she meant by calling him a subject. Luna seemed to sense that something had changed between them. She kept asking if he was feeling well, if something was bothering him. Her concern seemed genuine, which only made Jake more confused about what was real and what wasn't. The truth came out in the most unexpected way possible. Jake was studying late one night, working on a physics project about electromagnetic fields. Luna had gone to bed early, which was unusual for her. Around midnight, Jake knocked over his desk lamp while reaching for a book. The bulb shattered when it hit the floor, plunging his room into complete darkness. As Jake fumbled around looking for his phone's flashlight, he heard Luna sit up in bed behind him. "Are you hurt?" she asked, her voice full of worry. "I'm fine, just broke the lamp," Jake replied, still searching for his phone. "Can't find my phone to turn on the light." That's when he turned around and saw something that changed everything. Luna's eyes were glowing. Not reflecting light from somewhere else, actually glowing with a soft silver light that illuminated her face in the darkness. Jake froze, staring at her. For a moment, neither of them moved. Luna looked back at him with those glowing eyes, and he could see the exact moment she realized what had happened. "Jake," she whispered, and her voice was filled with terror. He reached over and flicked on the overhead light. Luna's eyes immediately returned to their normal dark color, but Jake had seen what he'd seen. "Your eyes," he said quietly. They were glowing. Luna pulled her knees up to her chest, wrapping her arms around them like she was trying to make herself smaller. She looked like someone who'd been caught doing something terrible. "I can explain," she said, but her voice was shaking. "Please do, because right now I'm starting to think I'm losing my mind." Luna stared at him for a long moment, tears starting to form in her now normal eyes. "You're not losing your mind. But what I have to tell you, Jake, you're not going to believe it. And even if you do believe it, you might hate me." Jake sat down on the edge of the bed, his heart pounding. "Try me." Luna took a deep breath and looked directly at him. "I'm not from Eastern Europe. I'm not from anywhere on Earth." Jake felt like the room was spinning. "What do you mean?" "I mean exactly what I said. I'm not human, Jake. I'm from another world, very far from here." For a moment, Jake couldn't speak. Part of him wanted to laugh, to tell Luna that she was being ridiculous. But looking at her face, seeing the terror and sadness there, he knew she wasn't joking. "You're saying you're an alien?" he finally managed to ask. Luna nodded slowly. "My people have been studying your planet for many years. We've watched from a distance, learning about human behavior and culture. But this is one of the first times we've attempted direct contact for an extended period." Jake's mind was reeling. "So everything about you being an exchange student, it was a cover story. I volunteered for this mission because I was fascinated by humans. Your species has something mine lost long ago, the ability to feel emotions deeply and form individual bonds." "Mission?" Jake's heart sank as he remembered the conversation he'd overheard. "So I really am just some kind of experiment to you?" Luna's face crumpled. "It started that way. I was supposed to observe human bonding behavior, to understand how your species forms emotional connections. The sleeping arrangement, the proximity healing, it allowed me to study your emotional patterns. Jake felt sick. So none of it was real. You were just using me? No, Luna said quickly, reaching toward him before stopping herself. Jake, please listen. Yes, it started as research, but something happened that I never expected. Somewhere along the way, I stopped just studying human emotions and started feeling them myself. She was crying now, tears streaming down her face. My people don't form individual attachments the way humans do. We care for our entire community equally, but we don't have the concept of loving just one person completely. But you taught me what that feels like. Jake stared at her, trying to process everything she was telling him. So you're really from another planet? Luna nodded. My world is very different from Earth. We evolved beyond strong emotions because they were seen as inefficient. But being close to you, absorbing your emotional energy through our contact, it awakened something in me that my people haven't experienced for thousands of years. That's how you heal me? You absorb my emotions? In a way, yes. My species can sense and manipulate emotional energy. When I hold you at night, I can calm your fears and anxieties by drawing them away from you. But the process works both ways. I absorb some of what I take, and over time it's changed me. Jake got up and started pacing around the room. This was insane. Luna was claiming to be an alien who had been sent to study him. But somehow it also explained everything. Her strange behavior, her unusual reactions to everyday things, her mysterious healing abilities. How long do you have? He asked suddenly. Luna looked confused. What do you mean? How long before you have to go back? This is temporary, right? You're not staying on Earth forever. The look on Luna's face told him everything he needed to know before she even spoke. I'm supposed to return to my world in 2 weeks, she whispered. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the stomach. Just when he'd found someone who understood him better than anyone ever had. Just when he'd fallen completely in love. He was going to lose her. 2 weeks, he repeated. Jake, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. I wasn't supposed to develop feelings for you. This was supposed to be a simple observation mission. But you did develop feelings? Luna looked at him with those dark eyes that he now knew could glow with otherworldly light. I love you, Jake. I don't think I even understood what that word meant before I met you. My people would say I've been compromised by prolonged exposure to human emotion. But I don't care. What I feel for you is the most real thing I've ever experienced. Jake sat back down, his head in his hands. This is crazy. This whole situation is completely insane. I know how it sounds. Do I even know your real name? Luna is my real name. That part wasn't a lie. Jake looked up at her. Despite everything she'd just told him, despite learning that their entire relationship had started as some kind of experiment, he could see the genuine love in her eyes. Whatever else was true or false, that part was real. What happens if you don't go back? He asked. Luna's expression became sad. I don't know. No one from my world has ever refused to return from a mission. I would be cut off from my people probably forever. Jake reached out and took her hand. It felt just as cool and soothing as always. And what happens if you do go back? Then I lose you, Luna said simply. And I spend the rest of my very long life remembering what it felt like to love someone completely. The 2 weeks that followed Luna's revelation were the most intense of Jake's life. At first, he struggled to wrap his mind around the fact that the woman he'd fallen in love with wasn't even human. But as the shock wore off, he realized that everything he loved about Luna, her kindness, her curiosity, her gentle way of seeing the world was still exactly the same. If anything, knowing the truth made their connection feel even more special. Luna had traveled across the universe and somehow found him. Out of all the humans on Earth, she had chosen to study him, to get close to him, and eventually to love him. Luna seemed amazed that Jake hadn't run away after learning who she really was. You're not afraid of me? She asked the morning after her confession. Should I be? Most humans would be terrified to learn they'd been sleeping next to an alien for months. Jake considered this. Maybe I should be scared. But honestly, I'm more scared of losing you. Luna's eyes filled with tears. Jake, I don't know what's going to happen. My people expect me to return home. They're probably already preparing for my arrival. What if you just didn't go back? I've thought about that every day since I started having feelings for you. But if I stay on Earth, I'd be completely cut off from my world. I'd never see my family again, never return to the place where I belong. Jake understood the weight of that choice. He was asking her to give up everything she'd ever known to stay with him. It seemed selfish, but he couldn't help hoping she would choose him anyway. They spent their remaining time together like it was precious gold. Luna showed Jake things about his own world that he'd never noticed before. She taught him to really look at sunsets, to appreciate the complexity of a simple flower, to understand that every moment was a small miracle. "Your planet is so beautiful," she told him one evening as they watched the stars from his apartment balcony. "My world is more advanced technologically, but we've lost touch with the natural beauty that surrounds us. Humans still have that connection. Will you miss it? Earth, I mean." Luna was quiet for a moment. "I'll miss everything about this place. But mostly I'll miss you." Jake learned more about Luna's world during those final days. Her people lived much longer than humans. Luna was already over 100 years old, though she looked 25. They had eliminated most diseases and conflicts, but in doing so, they had also lost much of their emotional depth. "We became very efficient," Luna explained, "but we also became cold. When I first arrived on Earth and felt the intensity of human emotions, it was overwhelming. Your species feels everything so deeply. Joy, sadness, love, fear. It's chaotic and beautiful. Is that why you chose to study emotions specifically?" "I volunteered for this mission because I was curious about what we had lost. I thought I could observe human feelings from a distance, understand them intellectually. I never expected to experience them myself." Jake watched Luna as she spoke, still amazed by her otherworldly grace. Even knowing what she was, she seemed perfectly human to him in all the ways that mattered. The hardest part was how normal their daily life remained, even as they counted down to their separation. They still slept curled up together every night, still shared meals, still helped each other with everyday problems. But underneath everything was the knowledge that their time was running out. Luna began having more frequent conversations with her people, though Jake never heard them. She would stand by the window at night, speaking in that musical language, and he could tell from her tone that the conversations were becoming more urgent. "They're getting impatient," she told him after one particularly long discussion with the stars. "They want to know why I haven't begun the return journey preparations." "What did you tell them?" "That I'm still collecting important data." Luna looked at him sadly. "It's not entirely a lie. Every moment with you teaches me something new about human nature." 5 days before her scheduled departure, Luna made a decision that surprised them both. She stopped having her nightly conversations with her people. When Jake asked about it, she said simply, "I'm not ready to leave yet." "What does that mean for you?" "I don't know. But I know I can't just walk away from us without trying to find another option." Jake felt a spark of hope. "You mean you might stay?" "I'm thinking about it. But Jake, you need to understand what that would mean. If I stay on Earth, I can never go home. I'd be choosing you over my entire world, my family, everything I've ever known. That's a huge sacrifice. I can't ask you to do that." Luna took his hands in hers, and he felt that familiar, cool comfort. "You're not asking. I'm choosing. But I need to be sure it's what you really want too." "What do you mean?" "I need to know that you love me for who I really am, not just because I have these abilities that make you feel good. I need to know that you can handle being with someone who will always be different from other humans." Jake thought about this seriously. It was true that Luna's healing abilities had initially drawn him to her. But over the months they'd been together, he'd fallen in love with so much more than that. Her curiosity about the world, her gentle wisdom, her ability to make him see things differently, none of that had anything to do with her alien nature. "Luna," he said carefully, "I fell in love with you before I knew what you were. Yes, your abilities are amazing, but they're not why I love you. I love you because you make me a better person. You make me think deeper, feel more, appreciate life in ways I never did before." Luna smiled, the first genuinely happy smile he'd seen from her in weeks. "Then I want to try staying. I want to see if we can build a life together. What about your people? Won't they come looking for you?" "Possibly. But my world doesn't interfere with individual choices once they're made. If I choose to stay on Earth, they'll respect that decision, even if they don't understand it." The night before Luna was supposed to leave, she held Jake tighter than she ever had before. They lay awake talking until sunrise, making plans for their future together, and acknowledging how uncertain everything would be. "Are you scared?" Jake asked as they watched the sun come up through his window. "Terrified," Luna admitted. "I'm choosing to stay in a world where I'll always be an outsider, giving up everything I've ever known for someone I've only known for a few months. It's probably the most illogical decision I've ever made. Do you regret it?" Luna turned to look at him with those dark eyes that had once glowed with alien light. "No, love isn't supposed to be logical. That's what makes it so beautiful." When the sun was fully up, Luna stood at the window one last time and spoke to her people in their musical language. Jake couldn't understand the words, but he could tell she was saying goodbye. When she finished, she turned back to him with tears in her eyes but determination on her face. "I told them I'm staying on Earth. The mission is over." Jake pulled her into his arms, hardly believing that she had chosen him over her entire world. "Are you sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my very long life," Luna said. "I love you, Jake. And I want to discover what it means to build a life with someone you love." Years later, Jake would often think about how extraordinary their love story was. He had found someone who had literally traveled across the universe to be with him. Luna never regretted her choice to stay on Earth, and Jake never took for granted the sacrifice she had made. They built a quiet life together, filled with small moments of wonder. Luna continued to heal Jake's worries with her touch, but more importantly, she healed his loneliness with her love. And Jake gave Luna something her advanced civilization had lost: the wild, beautiful, chaotic experience of loving someone with your whole heart. Sometimes at night, when they held each other close, Luna would look up at the stars and whisper something in her native language. When Jake asked what she was saying, she would smile and reply, "I'm telling them I found something worth staying for."